Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about what I think is the single biggest trade of the offseason. Probably most people agree with that, and why it is the biggest trade, and whether it will actually benefit the Rockets, benefit KD, and how it will ultimately end up impacting the league this year. Let's go. The first thing I want to start with is what the Rockets gave up. So they're losing Jalen Green and they're losing Dillon Brooks. So the two things about them is both of them are okay two-point shooters and decent three-point shooters. We have 48%, 46% for two-pointers, which is a little below what I would say average, and 35 and 39, which I would say is a little bit above what average would be. Combined, their usage was around 40%, so that's a lot of usage. So that means the total number of times that they were getting shots on the balls, the end of possessions. 40% of the Rockets' total possessions ended with one of them shooting it, and you're going to have one player try and reproduce that. And then if we look at some of the stats of the Rockets in particular, their offensive rank, they were 13th in offensive net rating, but they were 4th in defensive net rating, which meant they played extremely good defense and okay offense. And then if we look at the offense a little bit closer, they were actually 23rd in effective field goal percentage, which tells you they were not super great shooting the ball, but they were number 1 in offensive rebounds. So even if they didn't shoot the ball, they got a lot of those rebounds with their athletic ability, essentially. So then if we go to Kevin Durant, we see essentially the model of efficiency. Kevin Durant last year shot 57% on two-point shots, which is very, very good. And then he shot 43% on three-point field goals, which is very, very impressive considering his usage was also pretty high, like 29%. Kevin Durant had a really nice quote that I stumbled upon the other day that was talking about how a lot of players just simply, he compared it to eating apples on an apple tree. He said that a bunch of players just eat as many apples as possible, like shoot as many shots as possible. And instead, Kevin Durant tries to focus on the highest quality apples to shoot those balls and get the highest efficiency because of it. And so what we see with Kevin Durant coming to the Rockets is he's going to provide a massive amount of efficiency on offense and probably not going to drop them down on defense a whole lot, is what I imagine. So then I went to the Rockets' last game last year to see if we could figure out why maybe they struggle with offense efficiency and where Kevin Durant is going to play a role. And so here we see Dillon Brooks posting up against Steph Curry, which is, that's an advantage, but shooting that kind of fadeaway mid-range, like he makes that, but Kevin Durant's going to shoot that at a higher percentage, 100%. And a couple possessions later, we see the Rockets, as the shot clock gets a little bit lower, they work to get the ball into Steven Adams, again thinking that's an advantage against Butler, but that's a very difficult shot to be settling for. And then the third one is a couple possessions later, we see Tari Eason go to drive, and you see help defense from Looney here. And again, that's difficult when you have congested bodies at the rim. Essentially, they don't need to help on the perimeter, so the Warriors were able to pack the inside, and then you get another miss on the outside as well. And so I think one of the big conclusions about Kevin Durant coming to the Rockets is he's definitely going to improve their offensive efficiency in the half court. That is not a doubt in my mind. He's a great shooter. He's a good driver, a good finisher, very, very efficient, and he will help them out there for sure. So then what about on defense? Can we look and find examples of them on defense and why they were so good? There we saw a clean switch there. And so this is one of the big things. The big downside of this trade is you lose Brooks and Green, who are both very good defenders. And so while Kevin Durant is also still a good defender, losing two players that can play at a high volume for extended periods of time because they're young and athletic, that's difficult to replace. Kevin Durant's not going to be able to replace both players, so you're going to have a step up somewhere else. And reality is you're probably going to lose a little bit of skill on defense. So then looking back at the offensive end, if you had players that have usage, so Green and Brooks were going to account for 40% of the usage, you need to know where that's going to come from, where the rest is going to come from. Kevin Durant's going to take some of it for sure, but the other two players that are probably going to get more, I would think, are going to be Şengün and Thompson. So first off with Şengün, I anticipate more post-ups like this. This isn't a very great possession from Şengün, frankly, but I anticipate more like this because Şengün is a good passer and a good finisher around the rim. But frankly, what I would really like to see a lot more of is I would like to see Thompson driving with the ball. And so hopefully he'll kind of fill in the void for where Green was getting minutes. And hopefully Thompson will get an increase in that production right there. And so while Thompson is undoubtedly not the greatest shooter on earth, his athletic ability and quick twitch, and I think he makes pretty good decisions going downhill, but he forces the defense to react to him for sure. And so I think he has a huge amount of potential if he can get more comfortable with the drives, more comfortable with the passing, and the Rockets can help him out here a little bit. So my solution is actually not really tied to Kevin Durant. I think Kevin Durant helps it for sure, but it's more of a general solution, maybe a coaching philosophy solution. So if we look at the Rockets last year, they, for being a young athletic team, did not play with very much pace. Now I'm showing some clips here that highlight just how good they were when they were pushing the ball in transition because they have those athletic players. But if we look back at the statistics of the NBA, they were 18th in pace, which means they were played below league average. And the big red flag for me is Ime Udoka, the head coach, also played very, very slowly with the Celtics. And so I think the simple solution that would make them so much more efficient on offense is if they pushed the ball more and gave it ahead to Thompson, gave it ahead to Durant. But I'm significantly worried that just from a philosophical standpoint that they won't, and they will kind of defer to being a slower team. They still have an extremely young and extremely athletic core that plays good defense. That's not going to change. So if they start to push the ball, not only will Kevin Durant help their 2-point efficiency and 3-point efficiency, but so will their pushing in transition. And so then the other big issue that I have that's a big question for me is Fred VanVleet is not exactly a point guard that just pushes the ball aggressively. He tends to default to a little bit slow over pace unless he gets the ball out to Thompson, as we see right there. And so that's what I think they need to encourage, is allowing Thompson to play one-on-one, or potentially even getting a point guard to substitute for Fred VanVleet, who's not the quickest of point guards. But I think legitimately, if the Rockets made one philosophical change, I think they could go from maybe a top 10 team, which what they were last year, to a top 5 team and really, really open up things for their offense and use their defense to get great possessions on the regular. And so for me, the thing that I'm watching most about this Kevin Durant trade is essentially how they play in the half court and how they play in transition. I think their defense is still going to be really good. And so if Kevin Durant is able to give them extremely more efficiency in the half court, they have a chance to be really, really good. And the other thing is if they decide to play with more place, they have a chance to be really, really good. If Kevin Durant isn't able to maximize his usage in the half court and they rely on players like VanVleet or Tari Eason or maybe Steven Adams, I think they still could struggle. And if they play slowly and don't really emphasize Thompson's God-given abilities, Kevin Durant's abilities to push, and Şengün's passing ability in transition, I think they could still be a fringe top 5 team instead of being at the high level where I think they have the potential to be. I am looking forward to it and curious what the season provides. If you enjoyed, feel free to like and subscribe. I'll post a video right here talking about Kevin Durant and him driving the basketball and how he's so unique and elite with it. But most importantly, have a blessed rest of your day.